Okay, Ned cheated on his wife, blah, blah, blah. You know the story. Anyway, he came back with a podcast called A Conversation with Ariel Fulmer. Presumably, you know all of the drama, so solely what I'm doing right now is I'm going to be going through this podcast. Specifically, I've watched the whole thing with Adblock. Don't worry, he did not get a single penny from me. And I have taken notes on the specific things that are interesting and worth calling out, so you don't have to watch the entire thing. Also, we're going to be watching it at 1.5 speed because they speak so freaking slowly. It takes forever for them to say anything. To an extent, it kind of makes sense. They are processing in real time. Last quick point before we jump off, it's an hour and 8 minutes, but really the only substance goes through about the 36-minute mark. So it's going to seem like we're going really slowly, but then after the 36-minute mark, there's a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and then it basically is over. After that point, they just start talking about the future. So without further ado, let's jump right into a conversation with Ariel Fulmer from Rock Bottom with Ned Fulmer. So the first thing he does is he starts this off with an apology. The apology runs for, 4 minutes and like 15 seconds. It is a crazy long apology. We're going to watch the first 37 seconds, but after that, you will kind of get the idea of what it is.
I'm Ned Fulmer. 3 years ago, I cheated on my wife with my producer. It became a massive public scandal that caused a lot of pain to a lot of people. I know that I represented myself as a kind of wife guy who talked about his relationship and put that out there for public consumption. And you, as a viewer, I know that I broke your trust.
Anyway, so he's saying that he broke your trust as the viewer, but I feel like more significantly, he broke his wife's trust. But this is kind of a pattern you'll notice where he kind of sometimes takes responsibility and then kind of sometimes he blames it on society. Sometimes he blames it on his mental health or the state that he was in. Obviously, we'll go over all of that. Second interesting thing, the weird vocal fry thing where he kind of sounds like a frog in his throat.
I'm Ned Fulmer.
Hi, I'm Ned Fulmer. 3 years ago, I cheated on my wife. That doesn't go away. It actually gets worse during the podcast. There's a channel called Charisma on Command that talks all about just how to interact socially, comfort, et cetera, et cetera. And he talks about this specifically saying it's because Ned was really tense and uncomfortable, which causes you to like scrunch up and causes your vocal cords to do a weird thing where you have a vocal fry constantly. So after that 4 minutes, we finally get to the show with the first interesting thing happening. Again, I'm just reading off of my notes here from when I watched this at 4:36.
Mm-hmm. Is it strange to think?
Also, there's a hum in the background. That's not me. That's actually part of the podcast. I'm not going to bother trying to get rid of it because I want you to experience it in all its glory.
That people are watching this and listening to it rather than just being in like a therapy setting.
Oh, heck yeah. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm on the verge of like standing up and walking out of this room. Absolutely.
Same.
I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
This is a pattern we'll see where it doesn't seem like Ariel really wants to be here. Now, armchair psychologist here, I think her betrayal and subsequent humiliation of, everything having to do with that was so humiliating and public that she wants the conclusion to also be public, which kind of makes sense. Generally, I advocate for these things happening behind closed doors, but I feel like in this instance, because it was the fans that caught him, the fans that pointed it out, and ultimately the fans that got the whole story broken and causing her to leave him, I feel like it makes sense that her lowest point was from the internet, so it makes sense that her recovery from it, the last part of her recovery would also happen on the internet. It's kind of a full circle moment. Plus, she finally gets to get her side of it out. We've only ever known Ned's side because she essentially immediately hid away from the world, understandably so, and has not been interested in coming back out. Later, she even says that she feels stuck in 2022, and this is a way to publicly move on because the public only sees the scandal, and she wants to just move on and be done with it and continue her life, which I totally respect. 3 years is a long time to be seen as the girl that was cheated on by that one try guy. Next interesting thing happens at 10:16.
You don't want to be just sort of seen as the sum of your mistakes for me or the sum of your past for you.
Right.
And the challenging thing is it's been complicated for a while. I mean, we are still friends. We have children together. We go on trips together.
Right.
There's a spectrum of being together, not together.
Right.
Like there's ways in which we're together, but it's like the way that everyone wants to know, like, are you guys still like an item? Are you guys still a couple? Like, no. We really haven't been at all this last 3 years.
No.
I feel like he's trying to persuade her as much as anyone else that they're still friends. He's like, oh no, but like, we're still friends, right? Right? I believe they are currently officially divorced, but it's kind of heavily implied later in the podcast that they're only together for the sake of the children. Otherwise, presumably Ariel would have just not ever had anything to do with him again. By the way, massive respect to Ariel. Nobody wants to be in the life of the person that cheated on them against their will, but she has kids, so she's chosen to put her kids ahead of herself because she believes it's more important that they have both a mother and a father in a united family as opposed to one that fights. And also even more respect to her for what she says here.
People ask me, Like, do you forgive Ned for what he did? And I mean, the answer is no, absolutely not. How can you forgive somebody for lying to you, for cheating on you? No, fuck no. Like, I don't even, sorry, I saw red for a minute. It's like, no, the answer is no. But
Good. I'm glad we got the really important stuff out of the way up top, that this is a public thing so that Ariel can move on with her life. They are not back together, and she's only sticking around for the kids because the kids are more important to her than her own well-being. Huge respect. That is a mother that anyone would be lucky to have. And I know a lot of you, that's all you care about. They're not together. She's doing it for the kids, and she doesn't forgive him. If that's all you're here for, please like the video on your way out, and thanks for coming. But if not, the next interesting things happens at 13:47. Remember, this does pick up near to the end. The podcast is basically over like right about here. So we don't actually have as much as it looks like to go through. 13:47.
It's hard to hear you saying like, fuck no, I don't forgive you. Of course I get it. I mean, you're still, as much progress as we've had, you're still very angry.
yeah, of course I'm angry.
Of course she is. I mean, who wouldn't be? No matter what he does, even if he is actually sorry, which I think is debatable, but even if he actually was, there's no way that he can put her life back together. It's gone. It's destroyed. Through no fault of her own, it is irrecoverable. Everything she knew was torn away from her and trampled in the mud right in front of her. Compliments of strangers on the internet exposing an affair. She never gets to have a normal life again because he stole it from her. It's not something he or anyone can take back. Next interesting thing, 14:34.
Of course I'm still angry. We lost a lot. There was a lot that happened 3 years ago. It was, I mean, I found out about your affair from the fans. I mean, I'm so blindsided.
I was not planning to pause it there. But what is this little nod here? Yeah, you did. Strangers on the internet told you that I was fucking someone else.
I mean, and I was so blindsided that somebody sent me a picture, and I couldn't. It was like my brain couldn't compute, and I it's like, for some reason, I didn't see what was actually there in the picture. I thought it was your sister.
I think this is the crux of anything. She was blindsided, her life was gone forever without her consent, and the humiliation of having to find out from fans who essentially already knew. The rest of the world knew before she did. The humiliation of that is absolutely crazy. I know everyone's going to say, well, she shouldn't feel humiliation for that. I totally agree. She should not be ashamed or embarrassed for something that he and his producer did. But I think she probably still does, and she talks about that later. And I feel absolutely horrible for her. If you haven't experienced this yet, probably at some point in life you will, but there will be a point where you get news that's so bad, you will be physically unable to believe it, even though it's staring right at you. The death of a loved one, someone you thought you knew doing something horrible, any number of other things. Now, we're going to jump ahead a little bit. She basically just goes on to talk about how nothing felt safe, inside or outside. Her friends weren't safe, and they were inside. The cameras weren't safe. They were outside, and they discuss that for about 10 minutes, where she just kind of recludes from the whole world because she doesn't know what to do and nothing feels safe anymore. But at the very end of her discussing that lack of safety and how all of her security was just kind of ripped away from her in this one moment, Ned says this at 23:33.
How that caused you to really feel unsafe and mistrusting of the whole world. Just want to acknowledge that and note that it's like because of things I did that caused you to experience that.
Yeah.
What?
This is the most therapy speak garbage ever. He does it several times where he does this kind of generic, acknowledge the partner's feelings are valid, and then say you feel sorry for having caused those feelings. Like, Ned, have an original thought, I'm begging you. It feels more like he's been fed these ideas of this is how to make it better, as opposed to coming to the conclusion on his own of this is how I can atone for what I did. Now, the next segment is pretty long, but it's a very interesting part. It's the story of what happened when she realized what he was doing. doing. And I want to warn you up front, it is both very uncomfortable, but also pretty interesting if you are kind of interested in this aspect of it. But I am going to play it in its entirety, starting at 24:55.
I remember we were in New York, and you were just picking me up from the airport. And I was so like naively, so you were driving a rental, and I just naively looked over to you in the driver's seat, and I was like, why was Grace in New York? Like, I didn't.
Grace is his sister, by the way. She thought that it was his sister in the pictures at first and didn't realize that it was their producer that he was having an affair with.
Grace was in New York. Why was she, referring to that picture that I had sent to you? And you looked over at me with this look on your face, and it was like the veil just fell, like this. Like I knew in my brain that something was going on, but I just sort of refused to believe it. And then when I saw that, like, just wildly guilty look on your face, like you wanted to tell me something, and I didn't even let you say anything. I was like, turn this car around. You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember it happening like that, but it doesn't matter.
He's right. It doesn't matter.
How do you remember it happening?
Oh, I mean, you asked me a couple of different follow-up questions as I just sort of answered them. And then, once I, answered it in such a way that you knew exactly who it was and what had happened, then you were like, take me back to the airport.
Yeah.
That part was very cinematic, if you were trying to be like in a movie.
Turn this fucking car around.
I mean, yeah, I think there was a lot of sort of delusions and rationalizations that you, as the person doing that, sort of are telling yourself as to why it's not so bad, or why it's going to be okay, or why actually this talked about it in this way. And then it's like, I remember that moment, it all just kind of like fell down, where I totally could see how devastated and just completely traumatized you were. And then it was just like, everything changed for me as well. I'm like, oh no, this is like, I've been hurting this person that I love this whole time.
You didn't realize until then?
Well,
You didn't realize until then? He's brutal. I'm surprised you didn't say, well, I mean, you weren't hurt till you knew that I was hurting you. So technically, I am correct that I didn't realize until then. I mean, it's just, the pauses are so killer. And let me tell you, they're going to get worse here in a second.
But then there's other things you tell yourself to kind of sort of compartmentalize, or I guess.
Interesting.
I'm uncomfortable and I'm not even there. But I do respect that she's giving him no exits. She is forcing him to sit in the knowledge of how horrible he's been. He's bad and she wants him to feel bad because that's what he deserves because of what he did. But I thought that was important. One, because it lets Ariel tell her side of the story, which hasn't previously come out to my knowledge. And two, it also shows Ned in this kind of weird area where he seems to be somewhat acknowledging of what he did, but also not entirely taking responsibility in the way that he should. It's all very weird and uncomfortable. Jumping ahead just a little bit, they're talking about the emotions that Ariel felt when Ned told her and what that did to her.
I've done a lot. I've spoken a lot with other betrayed partners over the last 3 years, and it's something that I've heard a lot. This idea of like when there's this sense of relief when the partner who's doing the betraying is able to finally tell the betrayed partner that about all the things that they have been doing, and kind of put their shame onto the other partner. They, in that like sort of release of their like of all of that like
shame and guilt
and guilt that they've been holding. It's almost like they feel so much relief, but the partner then has to accept it.
And that always confused me about people who are admitting that they did something wrong in order to feel better. It is so selfish. Now it's the partner's problem to deal with. It's like them saying, well, I cheated on you, and now you get to decide what to do about that. Bye-bye. Like, not only does the partner have to deal with being cheated on, but now they are also the sole person having to make all the decisions around what happens next. That is the least fair thing imaginable in this situation.
And that's exactly what happened. You know, when you told me, suddenly then I had to take all of that guilt and shame of your affair. And it was so much to carry. So much. Like,
we'll get to more of what she says. I'm focusing on Ariel here, who does most of the talking, and this is obviously a way to end this entire saga. It started online, it ends online. It kind of makes sense. Now, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because she takes about 20 seconds to gather her words and figure out what she's feeling, and then she articulates it here at 32:09.
the wild thing is
And again, it'll be about 3-minute clip, but I think it's important, and we're keeping it on 1.5 times.
that this was something that you had done. You know, like, I had no part in this. This was not, like, you could even say that you had done this to me, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Again with the fucking nodding, man. Stop.
I was the victim of this situation. And yet, when you told me, I had to, like, accept your guilt and your shame. And
No way. The selfish guy who blew up his wife's life in order to get his rocks off with someone he presumed to be hotter and younger is selfish? What? Cheating, I think, fundamentally is the most selfish thing just ever. And then telling your partner to make yourself feel better is like being selfish part 2 Electric Boogaloo. I'm going to go ahead and play it through 33-34 because she talks more about how this made her feel, and I think that is the most important part of this.
in our, like, society where couples are, especially married couples, like, when men have affairs, women are often looked at as like, well, what did you do wrong? And it's so hard to get out from under that of like, well, what did you do to make him look elsewhere? You know, were you not a good enough wife? Were you not, did you not make him happy enough? You know?
And this is so true because every woman I know that has been cheated on has always second guessed themselves and become insecure, fearing that they were a bad partner and therefore drove the person away. Like, if I had been better, he would have loved me enough to stay. And no, some men, Mr. Wayne, just want to watch the world burn. Now, she goes on to say that she's tired of holding the guilt, that maybe she did something wrong when obviously it was all Ned and the other person, the producer. But she goes on to say that she's trying to accept the fact that it was all them and none of her. Jumping forward just a little bit, the next interesting thing is discussed at 34:05.
Did it ever occur to you that not only did you having an affair just it shattered our marriage, but it also, like, all of that guilt and shame, you, like, hoisted that on me. Like, you gave that to me. And now I have to carry that around for the rest of my life.
I don't think it's fair that as a society you're put in that position. It's certainly not true. And no, it's not something that I imagined as I was doing that. I think none of it was. If you really, like, let it sink in just how much you're hurting your partner and how devastating it is, like, how could you do that? It's still very difficult now, even 3 years later, to see you in pain as you're talking about that, because there's nothing I can do to change the past or to help.
Yeah, you should have thought of that 3.5 years ago, huh, Nettie boy? I've always wondered with cheating, like, what is the end game? Is it to hide it forever? Is it divorce? Like, what did you think the outcome was going to be? If you hope to hide it forever, I got bad news about the internet age. And if you thought it was going to be divorce, then you should have just gone ahead and divorced her. Like, it's so bizarrely short-sighted. Now, we're jumping ahead just a little bit because Ned doesn't say anything that I particularly care about. And I just want to warn you, 36-39, that this next part is a bit of a difficult watch because Ariel gets pretty emotional, so just feel free to skip this section if you want to.
It was like, you know, I trusted you so completely. And I mean, we grew up together. We got married when we were, like, in our early 20s.
Yeah.
We were babies. We had nothing. I mean, we moved out to LA with just our car full of stuff. I mean, I'm like tearing up just thinking about it. We were just kids. And it's like, it really was a fantasy. And I just think, how could you do that to me? Like, who are you?
I'm so sorry.
Like, we had so much. There was so much. We had so much life left. We still have so much life left. I don't know why I'm crying.
I just want you to know that this is the first time watching this that I haven't cried. The first couple of times I watched it, I mean, I was tearing up because, like, I mean, it didn't even happen to me. Her pain through having everything she knew and loved torn away from her is so palpable. I get emotional. But I think it's obvious that she's crying because they had the life that so many people dream of. You're a struggling couple with nothing that took on the world together and built this big, beautiful, successful life. That's what so many people dream of. And then you have it all stolen away and burned to the ground right in front of you. I mean, who wouldn't cry? Especially when she did nothing wrong. Jean-Luc Picard in the Star Trek Next Generation series says, it's possible to commit no mistakes and still lose, and that is not a weakness. And I think that's so important here, especially as she deals with the insecurity of, could I have been better? Which I think is something that every person who is cheated on deals with, and specifically and especially women. Now, Ned goes on to say something that originally I was going to skip, but it's so bad, I feel like I have to leave it in just so you have an understanding of how he still just doesn't get it.
I think it's like the loss of that dream that we both had. It felt like that in that time period for me too.
What happened?
Well, the dream started to break apart for me, and then rather than being able to talk about it or to confront those feelings, I wanted to, I guess I was too afraid to say how I was actually feeling, and it seemed, I don't know, I chose to deal with it and deal with like feelings I was experiencing in a way that was really self-destructive and hurtful to you.
Oh, you were dealing with feelings? Well, you should have said so. That makes it all better. Everyone knows you get one bone passed if your feelings are hurt. This is essentially the end of the interesting part of the podcast having to do with them, what happened, how they dealt with it, their emotions surrounding it, what their lives looked like during it, and they move on to talking about the future. And I'll be honest, I don't think anyone's super interested in that part. Mainly, they say that they're making new friends helped pull them out of their feeling unsafe, and having people in their lives that didn't know about their affair and frankly didn't care that they were famous helped a lot too. Just someone there to ground them in the fact that there is life outside of this tragic event that happened to Ariel. They also mentioned that they are staying friends and hanging out, and that it is implied that that is for the kids. Now, the next interesting thing is when they are discussing their current relationship at 49:29.
One day and something different another day. You know, I have some days when I hate your guts. And, you know, there are other days when I enjoy your company more than not. And that's okay.
Yeah,
It can be both.
It can be both.
You know, some days are really sad because I feel the loss. But other days, I feel a lot of gratitude and joy for where we're at now.
Mm.
Especially, I mean, our kids are awesome.
Yeah, they are.
And I mean, they're worth every cent we've spent on therapy.
Ariel is such a great mom. I wish everyone had a mom as loving of her kids as she is. The podcast, or at least the interesting parts, are almost over, but Ned lets slip this very interesting thing in about 5 minutes when talking about someone's internet persona. It's about a minute long clip, but I think you will be just as horrified, perhaps is a good word, as I was. 53:12 is when the juice starts.
I think you know, there's if you make TikToks as like a certain persona or doing a certain joke, if you deviate from that joke, oftentimes your like engagement will plummet. Like people kind of want to like just see, it's like, oh, it's like you're a stereotype. You're kind of like that person, and then I guess I noticed that in my own work. It's like the things that consistently drew people in were adorable family posts or talking about my wife, and then producers lean into that and like craft situations for me. And I don't know, over time I felt super pigeonholed and just like I had to fulfill this one like quadrant in a foursome to just be this like, you know, kind of caricature.
God forbid people know that you love your wife. Saying that you felt pigeonholed by having to express love for your wife and kids is absolutely insane. I am a total simp for my wife. I talk about it all of the time with my friends. Not so much in these videos because they're scripted and usually I'm talking about something that's irrelevant to that, but I can't fathom feeling like I was pigeonholed by talking about how much I'm in love with the person I'm choosing to spend my whole life with. Now, that is essentially the end of it. Ned says he's going to keep doing this podcast, Rock Bottom with Ned Fulmer. Ariel says she's going to stay out of the public spotlight and work on her pottery business. And frankly, I wish her all the best. I want to point out a couple of interesting things with this podcast in that it is kind of absolutely tanking. If we look, the first episode, 1.1 million views. People were really interested in what this had to say. Next episode, a week later, 44,000 views. Some people were kind of maybe tuning in. I think I did this as well, where I was kind of curious if the next episode would be any good. It wasn't, so I unsubscribed. Third episode, people didn't really care. Most recent episode, people really do not care. You can also see kind of the numbers in view stats. The most recent one is a 3 out of 10. And they've only released 4, but for some reason this middle one isn't being tracked. But at the time that I wrote this one hadn't been released yet, and each episode is doing worse than the previous one, which is great to see. You can also see here, if you go to the Chanalytics, that people were basically subbing for the Ariel episode, and then after that dropped and he dropped the episode after that, people just started unsubscribing. They weren't interested in an episode where he wasn't talking to Ariel. You can see when they announced it and started posting the videos, lots of people subscribed because the Ariel episode was huge. It was viral, 1.1 million views. Then this is the day he dropped the next one. Unsubscribe, 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 unsubscribe. People are just not interested in sticking around for him. They were only interested in it for his wife. And I think people just not caring and being apathetic towards Ned and his new podcast is the best possible outcome. If you get someone to hate you, you can get attention and you can monetize that. Think the extremists, Neo, Aiden Ross, Hassan Piker. But if people don't care, then there's nothing there to monetize. And I think that is the best outcome. So if you do come across this, click these 3 dots and there'll be an option here that says don't recommend this channel, and then don't think about it ever again. By your lack of views, either hate watching or regular watching, he will cease to exist. And I think that's the best outcome here. Thanks for watching.